Howdy, folks. Sorry for the delay. Happy Tuesday. We are here. We have some things to discuss. There's some news that is breaking with the Chicago Blackhawks. We will discuss what could happen, although we won't try to speculate. But Russ will start us off with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So let's talk about. I don't want to talk about the World Series. I'm going to leave that one alone, but I'm going to talk about Mike Tomlin. That's the first one, because somebody asked him in his press conference if he would be interested in a college job. And he went on this, very polite kind of tirade and it's like, I have the best job in the world. Why in the world would I be interested in college? I've told you guys I'm not interested in college. I'll never be interested in college. And he went on that kind of thing. And then at one point he was like, there isn't a check effing big enough to get to go and coach in college. And so you do wonder why that would come up when, they've never said his job is in trouble this year. They've said it in a couple other years, but clearly he's pretty cemented in there.
Yeah, I mean, they've had 3 coaches for the entire history of the franchise, so they don't really – they're not somebody who's going to all of a sudden, hey, Tomlin's fired, we're going to bring in, Rex Ryan. I mean, they'll play it out for years. That's what the Rooneys do. But I mean, there has been a downturn until they get a new quarterback, because we know that Roethlisberger is done. And Dwayne Haskins probably is not the answer. I mean, I think they made a mistake going with Roethlisberger one more year because he's old, fat, and slow. And
that's a terrible way to go through life.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's from a movie. If you don't know the movie, then
yes,
you'll figure it out.
Yes.
It's Animal House. Fine.
Yeah. Mr. Blutarski, 0.
I don't know a lot of movie lines, but when you said it, it just clicked.
Yeah. Dean Warmer, thank you. John Vernon, famous Canadian actor, I believe. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he's in danger, but I do think that they're at the point. Chuck Noll had a couple instances where his team was 8-8. I think it was the Mark Malone years, yep. and then they bounced back, and then Cowher had his. I think I'm not sure if Cowher was Neil O'Donnell. I think he was. He was
Neil O'Donnell.
Yeah. So I mean, they need a new quarterback. They're probably going to go out and get one next year, and then everything will be honky dory with the Steelers. And I hate the Steelers, so I don't want them to be honky dory. I want them to wallow in 20 years of misery like the Bills.
Me too. I have no love for the Steelers. All right. So if you love candy corn, turn away, because the Boston Bruins tweeted out a video where Nick Foligno has a bag of Brock's candy corn, and David Pasternak wants to try it. So he gives it to him, and Pasternak goes, "This is terrible. Where can I dump these?" And then, of course, Foligno's like, "What are you talking about? You didn't even chew them." And he did. And basically, it's not fun to chew on carnauba wax and sugar. It's not.
Is that what it is? Carnauba wax?
Yeah.
That's not appetizing. I'm sure that goes.
Doesn't matter if it's painted like a pumpkin. It doesn't matter if it's brown. It doesn't matter if it's yellow. It all tastes like the same garbage.
I'm sure that does wonders for your digestive system and for your kidneys down the line. Now, what I would like to find out is what material those, they're sort of like, they look like orange peanuts. They're made in
those things are like, they're almost like plastic.
It's like styrofoam. It's like styrofoam. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have to switch over again, Russ. You're shuddering a little.
Okay.
But yeah, no, they're disgusting. I mean, I can't tell you how many of those damn circus peanuts that I ate when I was a kid, which probably explains a lot about killed brain cells or something. But I mean, they're literally disgusting. But I mean, I didn't know any better. I'm like, oh, they're orange. Yeah, let me keep gobbling them down.
All right, wait, I'm coming up with the ingredients.
Weren't they called circus peanuts? Weren't they like that?
Yes. Sugar is the number one ingredient. Corn syrup, gelatin, pectin, artificial flavor, color added, yellow number 6, yellow number 5, red number 40, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it could have worse ingredients.
Yeah, and another ingredient, cancer. That's the other ingredient. Because, with all that dye, you're going to be glowing in the friggin' dark. So anyway, All right. On that uplifting note, hello, hockey world. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the coughing hockey buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And by the way, I think the entire Eastern Seaboard has the same cold right now. If I have had a cold the last 4 or 5 days. It's not COVID. I got tested. My mother has the same cold. She got tested. She's negative. But I swear to God, I've run into 24 people who have the same symptoms, the same cold.
I don't have a cold. I have a smidge of a cough. But it's really, if you want to get into it, it's phlegm based. It's not cold based necessarily. So I'm not going to subscribe to that.
Yeah. And William in the chat, no. Gummy bears are not awesome. They're
not awesome. I like Swedish fish. I don't like gummy bears.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Some breaking news to start the show, and we don't have the exact news, but it broke about less than an hour ago that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to release the details of the internal investigation of the 2010 allegations of an employee with the Hawks. It was sexual in nature. I'm not going to go into the details. They're well known, but it's going to be released today at 2 p.m. Eastern with Rocky Wirtz and the head of the investigation. And according to Mark Lazarus of The Athletic, organizational changes will be forthcoming. Now, the question is, and we're not speculating about who, but I'm just in terms of we don't know for sure. So remember, there were allegations regarding Stan Bowman and him being removed as the head of USA Hockey for the Olympics because of this investigation. We have to wonder whether this is going to affect Bowman, who was the general manager at that time, whether it will affect anybody else within the organization. I mean, Russ, we don't have a lot of thing to go on, but I'm a little surprised it took this long for the investigation to come to a resolution.
Yeah, me too. I don't have any answers. I've reached out to see if I could be in the press conference. Haven't gotten an answer. So I don't know if they really want to make it that public, if you know what I mean. I think they're maybe trying to limit it in nature. We're all going to find out eventually.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna end the show right at 2:00 so we can, because if Russ doesn't get access to the press conference, it's probably going to be on social media.
I don't know if it's going to be on anything, Mike.
I can't admit, if they're doing this, it would have to be, wouldn't you think?
It doesn't have to be. I kind of question whether it will be. I think we could stay until a couple of minutes after and see if we hear. But it's going to go one of three ways. It'll either be a clean sweep, which I think many people would be satisfied with, because I think that's the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. It could be, hey, Stan Bowman's there and everybody else goes, or it could be Stan Bowman goes and maybe one or two others. And I don't have names for you because I have no idea who did what. But again, if you look at this, you know that there's a lot of people that have passed through the Blackhawks organization.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know how many are still left from 2010. I mean, we know Bowman is.
No, but the point is they're in other places.
Right. But I mean, will the NHL, okay, you're with St. Louis, you're out of a job because of this. I mean, I don't know if they have that kind of pull where they can say, we're going to, this guy has to be out. I mean, unless every team is on the same page. I mean, this is an internal investigation for the Hawks, and I would think that anything in terms of negative ramifications would be regarding just the Hawks. Now, if there are people who were with the Hawks back in 2010 and were culpable in this investigation in terms of them hiding what happened, then it's probably up to. It's sort of like the scandal in baseball, Russ, with the cheating. It's like, okay, it was not on the New York Mets to have to fire Carlos Beltran. They just decided to do so because of the allegations involving Houston.
Correct. They realized, hey, it's the right thing to do.
Same thing with Boston and Alex Cora. He was fired and then rehired a year later. So there's nothing that says the people who are involved in the cover-up have to be fired by the other organizations, but they may very well be because of the seriousness of the allegations.
It's always possible. But again, I also get the jaded nature of people in the chat room and online saying we found nothing. They're going to say we found nothing and nothing will happen. You have a right to say that because we have seen things like that happen in all of sports. So I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say it. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. So I'm not going to predict that. But either way, at least they did it. We'll see the kind of transparency they give on the other end of it. That's really where we're at.
Emily Kaplan just reported, he says, the Blackhawks have really locked things down ahead of the press conference announcing the findings of the investigation into the team's handling of Brad Aldrich. However, one source told me not to be surprised by big organizational changes in Chicago's front office.
Okay.
Again, we don't know. That could mean Bowman. That could mean other people. We will find
again, if it were Bowman, would it affect him with USA Hockey? I would think so.
Yes.
Can I guarantee that? I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that if he is fired as general manager because of this, then I would think it would affect his status.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think.
Okay. There were a number of NHL games last night.
Were there?
Yes, there were. And we'll start with, and I'm going in order, Russ, of
how they're
listed on NHL.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to hang up unless you start with the Leafs game.
Okay,
that goddamn game because that's what everybody's here for.
The Buffalo Sabres won 5-1 over the Stanley Cup.
No. Start with the game everybody is here for, Mike.
Okay. We'll start with the Leafs and the Hurricanes at the PNC Arena in Raleigh. And I have to say this, and I'm not only saying this for Leaf fans out there, but I'm also saying this for Habs fans out there. The Carolina Hurricanes could be the biggest troll organization in the history of professional sport.
Really, ever.
And honestly, I will enjoy when somebody dances on their friggin' grave after they lose. And if they win, God bless them, then they deserve everything. But it's just like I get the little snarkiness that used to be with the Kings social media, and that was all fun and good. It was humorous. But, to start a website for the habslose.com or whatever the heck it was, and, the selling T-shirts for $20 because that was the signing bonus for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, or last night flying in David Ayers to turn the siren.
I had a feeling that's what they were doing. I saw hints of David Ayers the day before, and I was thinking, are they really going to do that?
I really wonder how much on board his current employer, if he's still employed by the employer that he was employed by back in 2020, how much they like the fact that they're flying him in and sort of rubbing the Leafs' face in the fact that they lost to a Zamboni driver. Now, Steve Dangle would say, well, then don't lose to a Zamboni driver. I get that, but okay, when is enough? But okay, grasp onto that, Carolina. You have not won a good goddamn thing in the Thomas Dundon era, but you're a good team, so you deserve that recognition. But anyway, so last night the Hurricanes come back from a 1-goal deficit, which is that seems to be the cap. 1 to 2 goals seems to be the cap on that Herculean offense known as the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Carolina scores 3 goals in the second period on way to their way to a 4-1 victory. Russ, give me your thoughts, and then I'll give you mine on what's going on.
I watched part of the second and all of the third. I did see some highlights. My thoughts were this. You could tell that there's guys that are overtrying, choking, whatever. I felt like TJ Brody was choking badly in that third period. He had a open point shot, and mysteriously his stick didn't break, but he gets stuck on the ice. He can't shoot. They move the puck away from him easily. There's another point where he's walking in, has a wide open shot, and then tries to pass it to Morgan Riley to make that great connection at the bottom of the net in the corner. But how often do we see teams failing with that? You have an open shot. Why didn't you take it? And they basically said the same thing on TV. And I think I was the Carolina broadcast, but still, he had a wide open shot. You take that shot. You're an offensive defenseman. The defensemen are doing them no favors. Adding when forwards go blank and they don't score, you are supposed to get pushed from your blue line, and they're not getting that either.
Well, I mean, they're definitely pressing. They're definitely,
yes.
If they were playing with wooden sticks, there'd be sawdust coming out. There'd be sawdust in their hands. I mean, the one play that I remember, besides the Riley and Brody dished to Riley because Riley was wide open, and if he just connects on the shot and puts it on net, he scores a goal to make it 3-2. But I don't know if he fanned on it or if it was just off. But it was
just an off pass. He didn't. Yeah.
But there was a shorthanded 2-on-1 break with Marner and Alex Kerfoot, and Marner dishes to Kerfoot, and he does 5 moves, and of course goes by the net and doesn't really even get a shot on Frederick Anderson, and then gets the puck right at the goal line and has the net and has Anderson down, and Anderson either stopped it with his skate or Kerfoot hit the side of the net, but that just is
simple. You're talking about the one that popped up. Anderson hit that with his glove.
Okay,
he swatted it away.
It came off on an odd.
The puck came up. He tried to lift it. Kerfoot tried to lift it, which is a hell of a stick handle by him. And Anderson made a great save because he swatted at it and he just happened to hit it. And it wasn't that high up, but it was enough that he just got it with the glove.
But that was one of the few tough stops that Anderson had to make. I mean, the Leafs only generated 25 shots on goal. They got up early in the game on a wraparound by Matthews, and then they were when Carolina tied the game, they were out shooting Toronto 19-8. And this is the crux of the whole situation with the Leafs. They're getting good goaltending out of Jack Campbell. They're not playing particularly good defensively. Their special teams, especially their power play, is a complete mess. They're at 13.6% right now, 3 for 22 on the power play. They're putting all their eggs in one basket on the power play, meaning Nylander, Tavares, Marner, Matthews, and Riley. I think there's too many cooks on that power play, and they need to have somebody, standing in front of the net and causing a little ruckus to be able to, get some traffic and get some chaos going in front of the net. Other teams seem to be doing that to the Leafs. And on top of all of it, 13 goals in 7 games. 13.
Yeah, it's crazy. So a couple of observations, though. Yesterday, we'll talk about the Ranger game later. I didn't watch much of it. I'm sure Flamester did. But as an example, Jacob Trouba took 10 shots in that game, right? Mitch Marner has only taken 17 all year. If I'm going to rip Ben Simmons for not wanting to shoot the basketball, I have to rip Mitch Marner for not wanting to shoot the puck because it's unacceptable.
Yeah, and somebody on the Twitter space Leaf Talk that I do after some of the games last night said, I think it was there. It was either there or in a conversation on Twitter. Frederick Anderson was always dubbed humorously Mr. October because he always sucked in October. They even showed a graphic of it. His goals against and his save percentage was under 900, and his goals against was in the 3s for the 4 of the 5 years he was with Toronto. And now he's 5-0. His goals against is under 2, and his save percentage was 944 going into the game. So, it's unbelievable that he's playing that way.
But again, he's got a rock solid defense. He still has to prove it to me in the playoffs, but because I always thought he was good in the regular season. I never even used the Mr. October thing with him because it was for the most part, he's been successful in the regular season. But just so you know, in the last 5 games, Marner has shot 7 times, meaning hit the net. He might have attempted more. And he's only had 2 shots that have registered twice, Mike. I mean, I get he's a pass-first guy, but now he's just flat out afraid to shoot.
Yeah, and Anthony in the chat says, you forgot to mention Pesci being boarded. Well, apparently he wasn't boarded because they didn't even call a penalty, and there hasn't been any kind of notification from the Department of Player Safety yet. It was an odd play, but I don't think Richie was trying to run him head first into the boards. It looked ugly, but I don't think it was purposeful. But I mean, okay, so the Leafs have lost 4 in a row, 0-3-1. They lost all 4 games last week. And they go to Chicago to play the Blackhawks. And Russ, I mean, I can't say, oh, my God, they're going to win this game because we said that about Pittsburgh and they lost 7-1. But now Bjorkstrom, Taves, Kane, and 2 other players are all in COVID protocol, and there's no indication that they're going to be back by tomorrow night. So
right.
Leafs are will be playing a shorthanded Hawks team, but with Marc-Andre Fleury in net, and whoever's left, they could very easily beat the Leafs the way the Leafs are in their own heads right now.
No question, but these guys are only in protocol. They're not saying anybody has it. So if they can get a couple of negative tests out of it before the game tomorrow, which has happened. Remember, we thought who we think was going to be in great trouble with that, and they only lost 1 player as a result.
St. Louis, maybe?
Maybe it was St. Louis. I don't think it was St. Louis, though. But it was somebody, and they had 4 or 5 players in trouble, and in the end, they were only missing 1. And so I'm not going to even look at that yet because that's something that could change completely. But the way the Leafs are playing, it is possible that they could way overthink it. Now, honestly, if I'm Sheldon Keefe, I'm switching up all of the lines. I no longer have a top line. Hold on, just let me hear me out. I no longer have a top line. I am now going to really put it in a blender because I have no chemistry right now. Why in the world am I putting the same old guys together for the same old results? You know what? Let me try something different because it's not working.
Yeah, and they did that. They did that last night by moving Bunting up to the top line, by putting Tavares with Marner and Nylander with Matthews.
But it's not enough. It's not enough.
Let me finish. But what I think is flawed right now, and I didn't like the maneuver on the day of free agency, and again, not putting all this on this particular player, but just the construct was signing David Kampf and saying David Kampf is our third line center and he's going to be the matchup guy.
He can't play. I watched him last night. He can't play. He's not good.
This is the thing. He's a 0 offensively. He's big. I think he's 6'2". He's in great shape. He can skate. But the problem is there's no threat at the other end of the ice. So you had a third line with a guy, and up until yesterday, with a guy like Alex Kerfoot, who's a decent offensive player, and Ondrej Kase, who before his injuries was a pretty decent offensive player. And you're wasting them because a guy playing up the middle can't create.
Right.
So they did that because they needed to save money in certain spots, and they figured, okay, we'll put this guy in there as a third line center, and we'll have a checking line. But like against Pittsburgh, that line of Kerfoot, Kasha, and Kampf was a collective minus 12. So, the top lines aren't playing great defensively, but that third line is sure as hell is not playing great defensively. So I don't know what the answer is. They have a KHLer named Kirill Simonoff, who I believe is a center. They could call him up if they don't think that Kampf is working. But I think they're sort of invested in Kampf because they gave him a 2-year contract. But the problem here is not the bottom 6, and it's not the bottom.
No, but it is. It is because you have to have the bottom 6 bail you out when your stars don't do anything. So as an example, I saw a few times that Nick Ritchie had the puck close to the net, but he didn't do much, Mike, and he has no points in 7 games.
Right.
You tell me, how many games are they going to let him play until he gets a point? Are they going to go 10 games without a point? At some point, that's ridiculous.
Well, he's absolutely ridiculous. $2.5 million, so they're going to
who cares at this point?
They don't have to. They invested in it. They invested in him.
Bad investment, and they should do something else.
I know, but I mean, Nick Robertson is out until Christmas.
Right.
They don't have a ton of guys who are ready to come up, and they're going to say, and I agree that it's too small of a window to come to any kind of conclusion on Richie. Is Richie a top line guy? No. Is he a fourth line guy? I think he's better than that, but he hasn't played great yet this season. But again, the problem here is not Wayne Simmons or David Kampf. It's Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares. They're not producing.
It's all a problem, Mike. It honestly is. It's all a problem because you're basically telling me, and you're naming guys that don't have much of a chance of scoring anything. So all the pressure's on the top six. If the top six can't score, and the bottom six is going to have trouble scoring, that's a lot of your problem.
Well, the top six can score. They're just not scoring.
Well,
that's the problem.
Until they can score, Mike, they can't score. And so the bottom six have to pull through here somehow. And if they don't have anybody else in their organization that can help, that there's no spark plug, and it's only within these guys, then Sheldon Keefe is going to get fired. And then eventually Kyle Dubas sometime after that, because they're not stocking the organization the right way, because they should have more options than this.
Yeah, I mean, right now nothing is going right with the okay, one little note here. Just sorry to break the.
All right.
The Rockford, the AHL affiliate of the Blackhawks, has wait a second. Blackhawks are releasing results of the investigation. The Blackhawks have canceled post-practice media availability in the light of this briefing at which Rocky works. Okay, so. And they've also canceled the media availability for the.
See, they're closing in this, Mike. I'm telling you.
They're, you know what it is? They don't want their players and their coach to have to answer questions about.
Yeah, they're not going to broadcast this everywhere. I'm telling you, it's not happening.
Well, I mean, it's going to get out, obviously, because
of course it's going to get out.
But yeah, so I mean, Wednesday will be. So you're going to have the intersection of two panicked organizations right now for two completely different reasons. One, a team that is going to be playing their first game in the wake of the investigation that has been over their heads for 6 months. Another who has been in a malaise and since they lost Game 7 against Montreal. And other than the two victories against Montreal and Ottawa, they've really looked bad. And they're going to have to find, and for Leaf fans, you have to hope that they take advantage of a depleted Chicago Blackhawk team. But I said, they're going to take advantage of a depleted Pittsburgh team, and they didn't. So we'll see.
Let me ask you this, Mike.
Yep.
You've got Joey Anderson, who has 2 goals already this year. You've got Josh Hosang, who has 2 goals this year.
He's on an AHL contract.
Okay, so they can't touch that. Joey Anderson, you bring him up, he could create.
Yeah,
he could do something for you. He plays hard minutes.
I'd call up Joey Anderson. I like him as
a player. Don't they? Why are they not calling up?
They called him up last year. I think,
but now they need him. They need him right now.
I think what they have determined that 7 games is not enough of a window for the current group that they have. Now, I would send down Mike Amadio, who has played 1 game, and call up Joey Anderson. But I'd only call up Joey Anderson if Joey Anderson is put into the lineup. If
I'm putting him right in.
Yeah, but who are you sitting?
I don't know. I have to look at their lineup. You tell me, because you know the lineup better than
I wouldn't sit Joey Anderson for Pierre Engvall. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. That's
fine. I wouldn't sit him.
Sit Camp, who else? Somebody else could probably play.
Yeah, if you sit Camp, if you sit Camp, you move Kerfoot to the middle.
That's your answer.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Right.
And I would put Kerfoot with Anderson, actually, because they're 2 greasy players.
Yeah, he hustles. He's got some sandpaper. So does Bunting. So does Simmons. I think if you noticed that in that game last night, there was no pushback at all.
None. A little bit by Simmons in the 4th period, like 3rd period rather, just because it's like he has to. But again, Wayne Simmons can't score. We know that. Yeah,
but I mean, he's not in a position now where he's being asked to score, and he's actually scored. I think he's got 3 points right now because he's on a line with Spezza.
Right.
That's why. All right. Moving on. The Buffalo Sabres And I'm glad Eck is not here because, we'd have to listen to him. Well, the Sabres, I should have picked them to pick six.
They should win the Vezina.
They should finish in first and second. Okay, whatever. the Sabres beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are having their own issues. Tampa Bay, like Chicago, I heard this morning, has not led in any game this year. They've won 2 games because they won in overtime, but they have not led once.
They're broken down, Mike.
Buffalo is now 4-1-1. Craig Anderson and Tokarski, I think I saw their goals against is under 2 and the save percentage is like .945. That's gonna last, folks.
I'll still bet against them winning the Jennings.
Right. Jeez. But okay, we will give them credit. They deserve it. Don Granato is doing a very good job. They're getting the most out of their limited talent. They're hustling, they're trying, they're being a pain in the ass. That's all you can do. Victor Olofsson with a couple goals, Drake Caggiula, Vinny Hinostroza, and Robert Hogg. And it's just a collection, John Hayden, Ryan McGinnis. It's like, my goodness, so many hole pluggers here. But they're 4-1.
I like Robert Hogg, actually. I think he's a little better than a hole plugger, but I get it.
Yeah. But you have to give the Sabres credit. The question is, is this obscuring anything to do with Eichel? No. Eichel is still the big subject in Buffalo, and we won't go into that because we go into it every day. But, we know that there's some sort of crossroads that is going to be reached in the next couple of weeks with him having surgery or him getting traded or him having a grievance with the NHL. So, but switch to Tampa here.
Well, one thing about the Sabres, so they now go a West Coast swing.
Yeah.
So let's see how that goes. And it's not the hardest teams in the world. The Kings have trouble unless Doughty's back. It's the Ducks, the Sharks, the Kraken.
And boy,
it's a lot of travel.
Boy, was that a scary looking injury with Doughty. And I'm surprised.
It doesn't seem to be that bad. I guess he's rehabbing it. It's probably a sprain.
Yeah.
And lucky there's no structural damage. But it was scary looking, and it was cheap. It was a cheap shot.
Yeah, Hakanpää is the Finnish Brian Marchman, apparently.
Oh, yeah. But, this is a West Coast swing where they're certainly capable of winning games, and I'm going to guess they're going to lose 3 of them.
Yeah, it's very possible.
They might not, but I'm just guessing that they might.
Okay. Sorry, I was just checking to see if there were any updates here. So about Tampa Bay, they're under 500 right now. They played Brian Elliott last night, so that was doing the Sabres a bit of a favor, but you don't want to play Vasilevsky every game.
No, you can't.
The issue here is, they lost their third line. They lost Tyler Johnson. Now they've lost Kucherov. It appears that the injury is a long-term, not the season, but a couple months.
Right.
I said, Russ, when the season started, that Tampa Bay had lost their ability to lose a big player and still be able to win consistently. And now they've lost Kucherov. So now it's on Stamkos and Palat and Killorn to carry the team, Cirelli and Point. And they have enough talent there, but the Atlantic is tough. It's deep, at least 4 or 5 teams deep. And the Metro is extremely competitive right now. So it's going to be tough. Right now it is possible. And I still think it's going to be 4-4, but the Lightning or the Leafs with their slow starts could be in trouble for that wild card. It's one of the wild
there's
cards.
no question. I was just on with Mick Kern on Sirius. He does think the same way I do, that it's very possible you can get 5 out of the Metro. I know Kevin's trying to break it down to what's always happened. But like I always say, there's always a year when something unexpected happens that you didn't account for, and this could be the year. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, I wanted to put this question up because last week was the first time in recorded memory that a Buffalo Sabres game was not on local cable. It's usually carried on MSG. And Friday night against the Bruins, it was carried on ESPN Plus and on Hulu. Now that game, I'm in the Buffalo area, and that game was not blacked out on ESPN Plus. But it was because I think it was not blacked out because it was not on local cable. But in the other instances, when it's on MSG locally in Buffalo, then I do think it's blacked out because then, people have access to it. But so I haven't. That's the first time where I was sort of scrambling around wanting to watch that game while I was watching the Leaf game.
We predicted this was going to happen. If you remember,
right, and this is going to be. Mike Harrington was fielding tons of complaints on Twitter about the fact that the Sabres weren't going to be on TV, and it's going to happen, I guess, 7 or 8 more times.
And ESPN's smiling and saying, "Listen, there's no complaint. Just sign up for our service, and you can get the game."
Yeah.
Here's a good example too. So I was watching. I had my channel was on Comcast Philly for some reason, and they promoted the Flyers game. They promoted the Flyers game against the Canucks. So that's the Thursday game. So that means they're not doing the Wednesday game. That never happened in this market either.
Yeah. Is the Wednesday game on like TNT or something like that?
I'm going to look it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
yeah, because it's Wednesday. Probably is.
Yeah. So there you go. It's going to be on TNT.
That's what we talked about when this deal happened. We said you're going to have to sign up for 2 services. If you want to see the most of your games of your team. Yeah,
in certain instances, if you're a cord cutter, you're getting screwed because the game is on broadcast TV and blacked out on online. And in other instances, you're in good shape because it's only online and it's not going to be on broadcast TV. So, the only way is like me, and that's you have broadcast TV. You're not a cord cutter, and you have ESPN Plus, which I do because I'm a reporter and I need to watch as many games as I possibly can. So I had ESPN Plus before the NHL package came on, and believe me, it's a better bargain than the center ice package because the center ice package was like $150, and I don't know what ESPN Plus, but it was less than $100. So yes, I think everybody has a reason to complain because they just want to turn on the TV and watch the game, or turn on their computer and watch the game. And when they can't find it, they lose their minds.
Now, I want to mention something here, Mike. I just got an email for the Flyers Alumni game, November 15th, 7 p.m. I'm going to cover that game, right? Here's who's playing in this game. And the interview should be great. And that's another reason I'll be there. Hold on, I just lost the roster. Here we go. All right. So it's Team Holmgren versus Team Tocchet. That's cool. So obviously, Now the coaches, Paul Holmgren, Mike Keenan. Mike Keenan's showing up.
Wow.
Here's the roster.
He's not in the KHL anymore?
These are the players playing for both teams. Danny Briere, Donald Brashear, Dave Brown, Lindsey Carson, Riley Cote, Murray Craven, Robert Esch. Robert Esch is coming back. Pelly Eklund, Todd Fedoruk.
Wait, Eck is going to be playing?
Yep. Mark Howe, Adam Hall. They had to get a filler there. Scott Hartnell, Mike Knuble, who I just saw recently because his son Cole is a highly touted prospect this year. Mitch Lamoureux, Reggie Leach, John LeClaire, Eric Lindros, Neil Little, who I used to see all the time. Joffrey Lupul. Hey, Joffrey Lupul. Brad Marsh, Scott Mellenby, Brian Propp, Shel Samuelson, Nick Schultz, Ron Sutter, Chris Terrian, Rick Tocchet, Scotty Upshaw, Joe Watson.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
That's some good action, though.
I pray to God there's not a brawl because there'll be a lot. There's a lot of. If you were going to have a brawl, you have to basically make sure. Out of this group, I still would never count out Dave Brown. I don't care about his age. As long as Brown and Murray Craven are on different teams, you're okay. If they're on the same team, you're in trouble. Wow. All right. The Washington Capitals beat the Ottawa Senators 7-5 last night.
Crazy game. I watched some of this.
Yeah. Now, I said earlier in the year, I think Ovechkin's going to beat Gretzky. If he keeps scoring like this, there's no doubt he's going to catch Gretzky.
Again, injuries, Mike.
Yeah.
It's still a long way. We're talking 100 and something goals.
Yes.
It's a lot of goals.
I'm not saying he's going to catch him this season.
Oh, obviously, you can do the math and know that.
But
look, he's got a shot. Just the fact that he has a shot is incredible. But this game was interesting because after the game, I thought Peter Laviolette had a great quote. I'll summarize it and just say he was like, hey, I'm sure Samsonov wanted a few back, but he also made a save on 2 or 3 of them that I don't know if anybody else could have made the save. So it probably balanced out. There are some games when you play, and you've seen this, Mike, where it's just like goals are going in. Goaltenders aren't exactly where they should be. Defense is askew, but the offense is working. And this is a kind of game where I think it bodes well for Ottawa in the sense that they were able to show some of the offense that they could have. The downside is they really can't lock down games yet. The Capitals are still a very good team, veteran team. Oshie had a hat trick. And in the end, the Capitals still know how to get the job done, even if it's a 7-5 game. And I think that bodes well for them too. But now we could see Ottawa isn't that far away, but they have to spend some money. They do.
Yeah. In certain places, they definitely
need some veterans in certain places.
157 goals. That's the right now. Gretzky's 894 and Ovechkin's 737. So
even if he gets 60 this year, it's a lot of goals.
Yeah, then you have to have 250-goal seasons to win.
At that age, who has them? Like it is possible. Again, it's going to be hard.
The Arizona Coyotes remain winless. The Florida Panthers remain.
Actually, I'm going to argue this one sec. So Anthony says Vanacek should be your starter. I don't know about that. Vanacek is a very good goalie, but I think he's the kind of goalie that if you use him too much, you expose him. Samsonov is your long-term goalie.
Yes.
If you don't think he's your goalie, then maybe Vanacek gets a shot next year. But you have to give Samsonov his shot because he has the pedigree and he did it in the KHL. And you know what? He does look very good. There's no reason to try and put Vanacek as your number 1 right now. And I think Laviolette knows that. I do. And Martin Favaria is very good. His speed has picked up tremendously in the last year and a half that I've noticed. And now he looks much faster. He's physical. He's a really good player.
The Arizona Coyotes remain winless. The Florida Panthers remain unbeaten. The Panthers win 5-3 over the Yotes last night. Of note, and I saw this I had seen this online, but I didn't see a confirmation of this about Carter Hutton being out 2 to 4 weeks. Russ, that means Karl Velmelka and Josef Koronar is the goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You have a problem with that?
Other than the fact that that's AHL caliber? No, not at all.
I mean, look, a team like Florida could play their worst game of the year and beat the Coyotes. That's just the way it is right now.
They only won by 2, so it probably was one of their worst games of the year.
Yeah. But I feel bad. I mean, at this point,
I don't feel bad because they did it. They did it
for fans. I still feel bad for fans because
all 6 Coyotes fans. Look,
in the end, the fans there are the ones that are still going to get the shaft in the end, and I do feel for that.
Yeah. The New York Rangers, who were 4-1-1 going into the game, lose to the Calgary Flames. A little bit of an upset there. 5-1. It was at MSG, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ex-favorite Andrew Mangiapane, who will not finish in the top 10 in scoring, did score 2 goals, and he's now got 5. But I'm sorry.
One of them, he literally just walked in on. He took it from the wall and walked in. No Ranger stopped him. But I will say this. Calgary's forecheck gave the Rangers problems, and the Rangers had no answer for that. That was a big deal.
Yeah, Chris Tanev, Michael Backlund, and Blake Coleman with the other goals. The Flames are 3-1-1 Flamester. So, right now, I think, it looks pretty decent for them in terms of a start for them. I don't think
it's a good start for them. I mean, they're going to need it, but there's going to be a time in this season where they're going to have to decide, what are we doing about Gaudreau? Are we just going to ride it out, or are we going to trade him and just hope we can continue to play well? They're going to have to make that decision. That's going to be a tough decision to make.
Yeah. The other games last night, the Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Dallas Stars 4-1. Columbus now 4-2. Oliver Bjorkstrand Zach Werenski, Gregory Hoffman, and Alexander Texier with the goals, Merzlikins with the victory. There was a report of apparently an incident with a fan in Columbus. What a disgusting friggin' human being, whoever this was. Apparently,
not even a human being.
Taunting Merzlikins about his friend Matt, and I always butcher his name, Mattis Kiviat. Yes, but was taunting him with, I guess, either derogatory comments about his friend, thinking they could get under his skin. I mean, it just, I hope they find this guy. I hope they ban him from the nationwide arena for life. He is a low-life piece of crap.
I would ban him from the NHL if I were the commissioner, if I could, because it's just like, what are you thinking doing that? I don't understand what this guy was thinking, and I felt bad for Merzlikins, who was just broken up after the game, broken up enough that he really wanted to talk about it because he believes in karma, and I can't. It's just inconceivable, man.
Yeah.
Better humans, could you please?
Yeah. Well, we'll take some questions in the chat to end the show, but the final game of last night was the St. Louis Blues, the 5-0 St. Louis Blues, defeating the Los Angeles Kings 3-0. Vladimir Tarasenko with 2 goals and David Perron with another goal. Ville Husso with the shutout. Tarasenko apparently, according to the Jeff Merrick show, Elliot Friedman was on there, said that the trade request is still in place, but he is playing well for St. Louis.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what I told Mick. I'm like, hey, he's a professional, and he's going out there and playing. If it enhances his trade value, great. If he doesn't get traded, great. But either way, he's helping the club. Because if he is enhancing his trade value, that's helping the club. And he's helping them get wins. So I give Tarasenko all the credit in the world because even as upset as he was, he's come to play. And again, I've talked about the young players there too. They've all come to play, Mike. And you know what? This is why you have good drafting and good player development, because you win a Stanley Cup. You figure a lot of people were thinking Blues aren't going to make the playoffs this year or they're a bubble team, but they didn't really account for a lot of their other inner talent rather than who did you pick up in free agency. It's not always about who you pick up in free agency.
Yeah, all their youngsters who they've been waiting on for a couple years have finally come to the forefront all at the same time. Kyrou, Thomas, Clem Costin's playing. Neighbors is 19 years old, so they've been waiting on him for a while. But I saw Perunovic won AHL Defensive Player of the Week because he had a really good couple games.
Yeah, and that's just extra talent that they have that's eventually going to be there. To answer Randy's question, do I want to be a part of the Stanley Cup parade in Calgary? If they win, I'll hang out on the Red Mile and wear my cowboy hat.
Yeah, I don't remember what question Creepy Robster was asking before I blocked him for 5 minutes, but I just enjoyed doing that so much.
All right, let's go with question.
So let's go to some questions here. Okay, we'll start with this one. Anthony, what can improve the Maple Leafs? New front office or new players on the ice? Okay. New players on the ice is not going to happen because they're up against the cap, and they're not going to be able to.
Just go through that whole scenario.
Yeah, as much as people want Marner to be traded or Nylander to be traded or whoever, it's not going to happen because it's too early in the season. Let's just say this: if this continues, then I can almost guarantee you that they'll trade Morgan Riley at the deadline because they'll want to recoup some of the draft picks that they traded last year, and I don't know how serious they are about re-signing him, especially if it's an 8-year deal. New front office, okay, if you fired Brendan Shanahan right now or Kyle Dubas, what is that going to do for the product on the ice?
I don't think Shanahan would do anything because I haven't heard from the guy in 2 years, so I don't think it's going to affect anything.
Yeah.
When's the last time he's done a press conference, Mike?
Right after they lost to Montreal in Game 7. He may have done one at the beginning of training camp, but I don't remember.
I don't remember seeing any quotes, so it's been a little while. Look, firing Dubas in season is not going to help.
I agree.
And is kidding. You know what, Flamester? If you write it in the chat room, there is no sarcastic font. I read it the way it was.
Yeah.
Anyhow, go ahead.
Vepsis, which struggling teams currently are most likely first to make a major change besides Chicago? Who are likely to make a change anyway? Okay, let's see here. Let's look at the bottom teams in each division. Philadelphia is 2-1, so they're not struggling. No. They're just Montreal. I think they're likely.
Yeah, I think Ducharme is number 2 in line.
Either that or a trade of players.
Right.
I mean, they're looking for a center. Could they be on Dylan Strome? Possibly. I don't think they'll give. They have a ton of draft picks, and Chicago is looking for a draft pick for Strome. Do I think Strome is an answer? I don't know. I believe Strome played with Dvorak in Arizona, but Strome's career in Arizona wasn't exactly successful. So I don't think Arizona is going to make a trade until closer to the deadline, when they will be like Ryder Trucks or U-Haul. They'll be rent-a-players aplenty on that roster. Chicago might, if they don't fire Colleton, I think Chicago could make a move. Maybe Nashville, if they could find some sucker to take Ryan Johansson or Duchesne. But again, that's too early in the season. And I don't think – I mean, do you think it's desperate enough right now that Vegas is going to make a deal?
They're going to try. Whether they can get it done, I don't know. But I think they're going to try, yeah.
Let me see here. I'm going through the question.
I mean, Nolan Patrick did get a goal. So.
Okay, Michael asks, would the Leafs consider trading Morgan Riley sooner than originally planned? No, because I don't think Morgan Riley's the problem. And right now it's 7 games, and they still believe that the Leafs are going to be a playoff team. So they are not going to trade Morgan Riley right now. I would only be at the deadline, and if they're out of it. If they're not out of it, they're not trading them. C. Cardinal, would a first-round draft pick in Koskinen get any goalie in return, or a bundle of Winwell sticks?
What are Winwell sticks?
Winwell, I think they were wooden sticks back in the 70s and 80s.
Really, but I don't remember them as a brand. I remember so many of the others.
Yeah, the name is familiar. I'm just drawing a. But okay, as for
Victoriaville and then Coho.
Yeah, Coho, yes. Okay. It depends on what goalie we're talking about here. I mean, I would assume it's going to be a rental. Would a first and Koskinen get any goalie?
And we get somebody, and that is the talk right now in Edmonton. I can tell you, because I had a discussion with somebody in that market that'll be on the Locked On Flyers podcast tomorrow, and so I can't give it away. But that is the talk in Edmonton. They will try and make that kind of maneuver, and I think they might be successful. Now,
well, the Dallas goalie, if I'm drawing a blank on the Stanley Cup.
Bishop?
No, the one who played for them in the Cup final.
Oh, Hudobin.
Hudobin would be somebody I could see.
Yeah,
especially because they have Ottinger, and they probably want to get Ottinger playing time. Dallas is going to keep Hudobin until they're out of it. So,
but I do think there's a possibility of this kind of trade happening. One more thing I'll add on Edmonton. Evan Bouchard is playing great, and I do think it was a mistake last year not to insert him in, but there were a couple of different reasons. Again, if you listen to that podcast, the reasons are spelled out. But Bouchard has been one of their best defensemen this year, and that's great. That's good news for them.
I'll just say this about this potential trade. I don't think a team, unless they're out of it, is going to take Koskinen back. They might have to trade Koskinen to someplace like a dumping ground like Arizona or Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then the other team, they would probably have to give up a prospect on top of the first to get a goaltender that would make a difference. Let's see here. A couple more questions before we end the show. Let's see.
We're going to go till like 2:05 just to see if we hear the quick response.
Yeah, we already answered that one. Going backwards here. Oh, okay. Well, this will be fun. Zach Hyman, 25 goals this year, over or under?
I'm going to go over.
I'll go over too, because he's going to play with McDavid or Draisaitl or both.
Yep.
But okay, and this, I'm sure people will be pissed off when I say this.
Nobody's talking about his contract anymore, by the way.
But it's still a bad contract.
But it doesn't matter. Nobody will.
No. I know it doesn't. Right now, and that's what Ken Holland was betting on. But it's still a bad contract. It's not a bad contract right now, but it'll be a bad contract in 2 or 3 years.
But I told you, Ken Holland has a small window here.
He'll be on a beach in Florida. He won't care. But see, from what I understand, the roadblock to the max deal with the Leafs was that Hyman wanted a no move clause, and the Leafs weren't going to give him that because I think after 3 or 4 years, they wanted the freedom and the ability to trade him off. Whereas I think Edmonton gave him the no move clause, and now they're probably stuck with that contract when it gets bad, which it'll be bad in 3 or 4 years. And God forbid he gets another knee injury, because then everything would be off the rails, because, he's had 2 major knee injuries before. Let's see here. Anthony, do you think Vegas is going to turn the corner? It's going to be tough because Pacioretty's out for 6 weeks. Stone is out for a little while. They have no number 1 center. Without those 2 guys, they're very challenged offensively. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that's saving their ass right now, Russ, is the fact they're in the Pacific Division, which is the worst division in hockey.
And that may keep them in it. Leonard's playing well. So it could keep them in it. Like, again, I'm not going to count out the Vegas Golden Knights until we see that it's really getting bad, because I do think they're going to make a trade. And even if it includes Peyton Krebs, I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, they supposedly keep pushing back on wanting to trade Krebs or Nick Hague, but yeah. So I mean, we'll see if they stick to their guns there. They may be playing hard to get, and then finally they'll end up doing it.
Yeah, I mean, just to answer Funky, I mean, the team defense has been awful in Vegas, and Leonard's made 142 saves. His save percentage at .904 is way better than Bouchard at .875 with his 6 goals again. So as bad as that team's been, at least Leonard has not been a sieve. He's not. He's been pretty good.
Frank Cervelli is reporting that Hawks senior VP of Hockey Ops, Al McIsaac, will be departing the organization as part of the investigation findings. That's the first name out, but the press conference is just starting.
And honestly, most fans would not care about that name.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I mean,
so I don't think they're going to care.
Randy, to answer your question, yes, if the return was good, and that's you
can't trade him. I would not trade him.
Well, I'm not saying trade him for a bag of pucks. I'm saying if they got 2 players that helped them of the same age range as Nylander, yes, I would.
They may have to trade Marner before they trade Nylander, simply because if it gets toxic for him in that market, they may have to trade him at some point.
And I said this last night, and I'm deadly serious about this. What message does it send that a kid who is one of the best young players in junior hockey, who's a Toronto native, who's a lifelong Leaf fan, who wanted to play for the Leafs more than anything, gets driven out of Toronto by the fan base because he got a big contract, and then, had some problems and hasn't at this point lived up to it. Good luck ever trying to sign a free agent. Good luck.
But listen, I mean, you could say that about New York. Look at Kevin Shattenkirk, always wanted to play for the Rangers. Didn't work out. They couldn't get rid of him quick enough. Keith Yandel, how did that work out in New York? How did Dan Boyle work out in New York? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just doesn't work out over time.
Yeah. So, all right. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. Kevin Allen will be joining us. I believe Eck will be back. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.